My name's Mike Cheung. I'm a young 72-year-old and I originate from Hong Kong 53 years ago. And I've been in teaching for 38 years and retired 6 years ago. About 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with early onset of dementia under Alzheimer.
So how did that come about, Mike? What were the first inkling that something was wrong?
I didn't spot anything, Willie, because I say to myself, all my life I talk rubbish anyway and I forget about things. But it was my wife that spotted it because when I used to speak, I'm spot on with everything. I remember everything. I remember long-term, short-term, things like that. It's when she started spotting things like, I asked her, do you want a cup of tea? And I went to the kitchen and I brought out a cup of coffee and she said, you never used to do that. And that's where she started pushing me to go and see the doctor initially. Well, I went to the doctor and he said, oh, it's just old age, And after 10 minutes consultation, we came out and said, we're not happy with that consultation. So we went back to the reception and asked for a different doctor. And lo and behold, my God, he was so thorough, Willie. Really thorough. And he referred me to all the scans, the blood tests and everything. And the rest is history, Willie. My diagnosis was cognitive impairment affecting the areas of speech and short-term memory.
And how did you feel when you got that?
A wee bit shocked because I say, well, all my life I do things and remember things thoroughly, because my wife and I listen to Pop Master in the morning, and I could tell her all the songs in the 60s, 70s, and the 80s, and suddenly say, hang on a minute, I've no idea what that song was last year, and yet when Ken Bruce started asking questions and songs about 60, 70, 80, I know more about it than her, but then when she said, there is something wrong, there is something wrong.
Now, you were a biology teacher.
Yes.
So did you know anything about the science behind Alzheimer's disease?
I know the brain as a general thing, and I know that the areas that the disease affect is mainly on the cognitive part, but then a lot of people are affected with things like eyesight, speech and all that, So touch wood, my eyesight and my speech is okay. I do get confused with words sometimes, I blame it on the fact that I'm bilingual, so I could talk a lot of gibberish,
Do you know, I've known you for a year now. I'm not aware of you having those issues.
Yeah, a lot of people say that, but a lot of people say that I'm still the Mike that they know for 40 years, because my best friend, Tom, I've known for 40 odd years. He knows I've got Alzheimer. And yet my son-in-law to this day say that to my daughter, I don't think your dad's got Alzheimer. And Samantha said, yes, he has, but he didn't think so. But then he doesn't see me often enough. Whereas my friend, Tom, my wife sees me all the time and they know that there is something wrong,
Are you conscious of it getting worse?
Not at this moment in time, Willie, not this moment in time. Touch wood,
How does this influence your day-to-day life?
Before I start hooking up to all the different things and all that, I used to get bored because I'm not a good reader. I love binge watching TV and all that. But nowadays, having hooked up to so many people, peer-to-peer support like yourselves and all that, I've got something to look forward to, and also since my diagnosis, along came the grandchildren and all that, and that's life to me now. It's really something. I've got something to look forward to with my illness.
And you've got very involved with things like dementia research and different groups. Why?
I want to be involved. I want to have a say, to influence things, whether it's little bits and all that. And I see that the things I do is going to be baby steps, but it's going to take a lot of people like ourselves to be involved, and hopefully it'll make small changes, if not large changes, at this moment in time.
How has your wife reacted?
She's mixed, she thinks that in the last year or so, she thinks that it's great. I've got something to go to. It just means I'm not sitting moaning and saying, oh, I've got nothing to do. And I just start thinking about dementia and all that. And she is glad that I'm involved with so many things. And more so, like today, she gets rid of me in the house, She doesn't have to look for me and all that kind of thing,
As I said, you're a biology teacher. You were a biology teacher.
I was indeed, yeah.
You know that this is a progressive illness.
Absolutely.
How do you view the future?
I think it's going to happen someday. I'm not going to be remembering anything. I'm going to not need of physical help and all that sort of things like that. And we do have plans, and we sit together and make plans in terms of finance, power of attorney, will, and all that sort of thing, And we are thinking seriously about it,
Does it worry you?
Yes and no. Depends, what time of the day and all that, I could wake up in the middle of the night and say, oh, I'm feeling quite jolly. And then some nights, like yourself, wake up in the middle of the night and say, that's a nightmare, it's not happened to me yet, And I'm pretty sure you feel the same as well sometimes,
Mike, you have kind of different cultural roots. I mean, you came from Hong Kong.
Yes.
You've lived in Scotland for a long time.
53 years.
How are you aware of the different cultures that you're part of viewing dementia differently?
Absolutely, and I actually didn't know about it until I was diagnosed with dementia, and I started researching out with like dementia in Scotland, and I started looking at different cultures around the world. And one of the things I'm talking about at the dementia conference was BAME, minority people with dementia, and I started looking into different cultures. One of the things I noticed from my hometown in China or Hong Kong in my case is that dementia, straight translation to Chinese, is madness. And I said to her, we're not mad, we're just suffering from cognitive impairment. To me, the word dementia is probably the wrong word to use. We are cognitive impaired, we're not mad, we're not got dementia.
What do you think the general public thinks about dementia?
I think they're getting better. To me, being a teacher, I still like the idea of dementia, Alzheimer, to start from the bottom. Educate them from the bottom, educate them when they're in primary school, upper primary school, so that by the time they get to a certain age, every person, every child or teenager in Scotland is bound to know of a parent, a grandparent, a great aunt that's suffering with dementia. And I think if they know in a very young age that, then they don't react to the stigmatized thing that dementia is an old guy or an old person sitting in the corner needing fed, needing to be taken to the toilet and can't remember a single thing and not knowing the relatives or the grandchildren or anything like that,
But, I mean, you, like me, will be coming across in the different groups you're part of, people who are at a more advanced stage of the disease.
Absolutely, yeah.
What do you think when you meet them?
Well, I know that someday we will be like them, obviously, and it's a case of when, And I think we've always talked about, Willie, that it's a terminal illness, but we just don't know the time scale, And I think we just have to accept it. And I do think about it, but I don't get too stressed about it now, because I'm getting used to the fact that it's not going to go away. Whether you take tablets or see 20 psychiatrists or anything like that, it's not going to go away, is it?
You've been involved with initiatives doing Chinese cookery
Yes.
for people with dementia.
Yes,
Tell us about that.
I try to simplify recipes to make it simple for carers, family carers and people with dementia to be involved, not necessarily take charge, So I based on something that Jamie Oliver wrote called 5 ingredients. So my philosophy with the recipe book is that you use no more than 5 ingredients. Everybody who's got dementia or not will remember only 5 ingredients, And the whole idea of the recipe book is that I look at different levels. So somebody who's got early onset could be very involved with the chopping, the cooking and all that. Somebody who's middle of the road would need help, and somebody who can't do anything can still help to prepare, wash dishes and set out the table. And in that, being an ex-science teacher, I added a lot of things like health and safety. For example, I don't recommend them to chop meat with a sharp knife. I recommend them to chop meat with a bread knife so that they won't cut themselves, And I also recommend things like don't use an oven, don't use a big fat wok at high temperature to stir fry, They'll set the whole place on fire,
But I mean, some people might be astonished by the whole idea of somebody with dementia encouraging other people with dementia to cook.
But it's a bit like this partnership thing, isn't it, Willie? That I wish there are more TV chefs that would say, hang on a minute, I'm doing this recipe on Saturday Kitchen, but it's not just for people who's not got dementia, it could be adapted. My whole idea, the recipe book, is that it could be adapted at different stages of the people with dementia and other brain diseases as well, Willie.
You always strike me as a very positive person.
I try to be.
Are there darker moments?
Darker moment is when Hearts didn't win the cup final. That's just a joke. I suppose you're bound to go like that. I mean, you have ups and downs. I'm just hoping that now that I'm used to the illness, that I'll have more ups and downs.